And you're on.
Okay, everybody, thank you very much for coming to the Morse Code Key Show and Tell. We are from the Long Island CW Club. It's our pleasure to be back here at Ham Radio University. For you, those that are new to this, just finding out about HRU, this is really supposed to be an in-person event in Long Island, but because of COVID, it's gone virtual. So we're back here this year with our second show and tell with some of our members from the club who are going to show some of their most favorite keys. And just a little bit about our club. We teach Morse code. We run 80 classes and forums per week. And of course, we have a passion about the keys we use. So with that, I'd like to introduce our first presenter. Ladies first, of course, Kathy W4CMG, a senior member of our club and an instructor. Kathy, why don't you show us what you have?
All right, well, thank you so much, Howard. I really appreciate it. And the first key that I would like to show you is something called a CW touch paddle. And this touch paddle, I'm trying to make sure I can get it balanced okay. This touch paddle was my very first key. I picked it up in Dayton Hamvention when it actually was still in Dayton. And the thing I like about this key is that it's 100% self-contained. It's very easy to use. You can turn it on. It operates either via battery, or you can use either a 6 or up to 12 volt wall board and keep it going. It's great for POTA, and honestly, I take it with me if I go cruising or go away on a trip, or even when I wasn't retired, I would take it on business trips. Very simple to use. You just turn it on, and you get a nice flashing blue light. Put it down a little bit. Okay. The keys are gold plated and very simple to use. And it's a great tool because I learned on this key. It started out at 5 words a minute. It goes up to 50 words a minute. I'm somewhere in between. And what I do is I take this key because I have 2 offices. I've got the one in my shack and a separate office upstairs. This is my upstairs key. So I have to admit, if I'm bored in a meeting, I might sit there and play with the key a little bit, get a little practice in, or even just to give myself a break. So it's a really great tool. It was relatively inexpensive, and I have a lot of fun using this particular key. Okay. My second key that I'd like to share with you is this key. It is the W1 SFR horizontal torsion bar straight key. And this key is gorgeous, which is what first appealed to me. A friend of mine, my CW buddy, Ann KC9YL, had seen it and sent me a picture of it because I was a little bit concerned. I'd had some carpal tunnel syndrome going on, and I was afraid to use the straight key, the up and down motion. I wasn't going to last that long. This key is very simple to use. It is made for either left or right-handed people, but not both. When my husband ordered the key for me as a surprise for Christmas, he had worked with Steve W1SFR, determined that I really did need a left-handed key because that's how I was sending. And so if you notice, this is the beautiful pearl inlay right on my left-hand side. It's very simple to use, took almost no adjustment. I've made really no adjustments. I've had this key for over 2 years now. It's very sturdy. I've used it for all of my SKCC contacts after the first 100. And it's just a very nice key, simple to use, and you don't have the up and down motion. Everything is side to side. Okay. My third key that I'd like to share with you is the Kent twin lever paddles. And this Kent has a story behind it. I had gone up to Dayton this past year, wanted to go and get a Kent and could not find one anywhere. So I ordered the Kent paddles online from somebody who had it in one of my other club sell and swap boards. Looked gorgeous, but when I got it, it looked like it had fallen off the truck. Literally, the box was damaged. It was dirty. It had sat in Memphis for about 3 weeks, where the post office just didn't want to admit that they had it. We finally did some research. We got it, and when I got the key, it was so badly damaged that I thought it was just going to go in the trash pile. But I reached out to the Kent contact number, and they sent them a couple of pictures. They very nicely offered to have me send the broken part so that they could repair it for me. And getting the key back has been just heaven sent for me. It is my favorite key. It is my daily go-to key, and I use it all the time for anything from K1, USN, SSTs, all the way up to the CWTs, which are anywhere from slow to medium to high-speed contests. I also use it for DX and for casual conversations as well. By far my favorite key, and I love the story that goes behind it. Howard, anything else that you'd like me to add or any questions?
Well, very nice, Kathy. We got to keep moving along because we got to fit into the time slot, but that's very nice, Kathy. How many keys do you have total?
I've got about 8 keys, and I'm still looking for a bug.
Okay, well, good luck on that. Kathy, that was great. Thank you very much. That last one, the Kent, is beautiful. Okay, next up we have another senior member, Bob, K3ZGA down in Florida. Bob is a moderator of a couple of forums in our club. Bob, why don't you turn on your camera and tell us what you got? We lost your audio, Bob. Got to hit that. Bring the microphone on.
I'm unmuted.
Yeah, there you go, Bob. You're fine.
Oh, okay, good. Very good. Well, good morning, everyone. Glad to be here today. I've got Rusty, W3US, to show a very interesting key that he acquired this year. I'm going to switch cameras here real quick and show you what I've brought. Now, these are two keys that I've acquired this past year. One of the first ones is the BK100 high mound key. It's affectionately known as the coffin key, and that's because all of the interior of the bug is mounted down inside this Bakelite case, and it's got a 5-pound weight on the bottom of it, so it's very sturdy, and it comes with a clear plastic cover for the top. These were made, there were tens of thousands of these keys made. They were very inexpensive. They were sold in the US by companies like Lafayette Radio, Radio Shack, and so forth. The Swallow and Skillman and Det Suzuki were 3 of the companies that made them. The Det Suzuki later became High Mound, and High Mound was founded in 1947, and the BK100 was manufactured from 1953 through 1968. So I don't know where this falls in the realm of that, but it's a solid little key. That's set at the slow end of the range, and it can easily go up to 30 words a minute, and it's a fun key to send with. So that's the BK100 high mound key. The other key that I acquired this year is known as the hole in the wall key. This key was made by Ted McElroy. He and a couple of friends formed a company in Chicago called the Telegraph Apparatus Company, and they were active from about 1944 to 1946. And this key was made somewhere in that range. It was called the hole in the wall key because this plate here has a round hole right in the middle of it, and the pendulum, the bar, goes right through it and is fastened with this bolt on the top. It's very similar to the Vibraplex bugs for the most part. The hole in the wall was unique. This key was made in 2 formats. This was the CP510 with a painted black base. They also made a CP800, which was the same key, but it was a more deluxe version with all chrome on it. But it's a very fast key. That's set at the slow end of the key, and but it is also fun to send with, and it does a good job. Now we have a third key to show you that Rusty's going to show you. He acquired it this year at a swap meet, I believe.
Yes, at a Hamfest. You've seen some lovely keys.
Bob, you got to change your camera there.
Yeah, he's going to bring it in line.
Oh, he is? Okay.
Yeah, I was going to say, you've seen some lovely keys. You'll see some more. This is not one of those. I present the Siamese key. This was originally presented in an article in QST.
July of 1952.
July of 1952. And it was kind of an answer.
Rusty, can you get it more in the camera there? Like move to the left a little bit. There you go. That's better.
This was July of 1952, an answer to a need for keyers were just becoming available, and a chap, a W9, came up with this idea of basically pasting two J38s together, back to back, mounting it on one of the Bakelite mounts from the J38. The original one called for, I think, just a hardware store L bracket. This one's a little more elegant. He came up with the this mount, and it actually rests. It rests on the post here in front.
I'm honored that you guys are using my call as a demo.
You want to make sure you know it works.
When we were researching, trying to find the original article on this, I was looking for words like cootie and sideswiper and things like that, and could not find it. But then Rusty put it in, and this was made to be not a sideswiper or a cootie. This was made to be a paddle to activate a keyer.
Rusty, how much, if you don't mind my asking, did you get that for at the Hamfest?
You know, it's a bit of a long story, and I'll try to make it real short because I know we're short on time. But I saw it in November of 2021. He wanted a bit much for it. I kind of regretted not buying it, even so. And then last November, I went back to Hamfest. Same chap was there, same key, half the price. So I snapped it up. I paid $40 for it.
Oh, that's great. You know, it's very rare when you get a second opportunity to buy any type of antique, whether it's a key or anything else, that it shows up again. Usually you kick yourself in the butt for not getting something, and there it is. But listen, this is really great. I certainly would like to spend more time, but we have to move along. Bob, on that Hymon, you're so lucky to have one that has a plastic case that's not cracked. That was the main thing with those things, even when they were brand new back in the day, you know?
Well, if they still have them, Vibraplex, I learned about a year or so ago, was selling. You could buy a replacement clear, uncracked, clear plastic cover for these for I believe it was like around $18. But if they still have them, they don't. Of course, the BK100 is not made anymore. But Vibraplex, who represents High Mount in the U.S. now, they were selling these covers, because almost every one that you see has got a crack in the cover.
Oh yeah, that's what I remember from a kid. I remember that, you know. And being a kid when they used to sell those at Lafayette, we could break things very easy. So I remember that. Okay, listen, thank you, gentlemen. That was great. Let's keep the pace up. I know we got to rush. We'll go over to the UK to Michael G0POT. Michael is another senior member of the club. He runs a very interesting forum that he coined, London's Calling, complete with chimes. I love that class. Michael, what do you got for us?
Hi everybody, it's Michael G0POT. So what I wanted to show today are two of my favorite straight keys. So these are modern reproductions, or if you like, maybe reimaginings of a couple of classic straight keys. So the first one I've got here is the PB, that's Papa Bravo 213 from Phil Boyle, Golf Zero November Victor Tango. He's an English key maker. It's based on the Marconi PS 213A with the contact here at the rear. I think there were two versions of this, one with a short, the contacts on this metal tongue here at the back, one with a short tongue and one with a long tongue. But I believe Phil has tried both versions and decided the long tongue version provided the better user experience. That's now what he builds. A modification over the original design is the rear contact. If I can get that into shot, you can see the rear contact here. It closes very easily. Obviously, if I just touch the key, you can hear it closing. But if I keep pushing, you can see it lifts that plunger. And that rear contact is a plunger, a spring-based plunger, which you can adjust the pressure that you need to that it responds to. So the key has the normal straight key settings with the tension and the gap spacing, but it also has this additional tension knob at the top. So I can make it as if I've got hitting a hard surface, or I can make it as very, very spongy. So it's quite nice. It absorbs a lot of the impact. Phil has built these keys on an acrylic base, but he now built these so that it extends right under the knob, so it gives you a super stable feel. And he also includes now a steel insert in the base, just to give it that little of extra weight to keep it stable on the table. Overall, this is about 1.13 pounds, about 820 grams. It has this wonderful flange knob. I mean, the way you interact with a key is through the knob. So this is super important. It allows for lots of different ways of holding the key, whether you're a single finger, two finger, or four finger. I like to use four fingers because it spreads the load a little bit. The knob is about 3 inches, 7.5 centimeters off the table. So this key does lend itself to what we describe as European style of sending. So with your arm in free space and the key at the edge of the table. Size and of the arm, the rear contact make this super smooth to send on and super silent. So if I turn the side tone down, you may or may not be able to hear that. It's really, really quiet to send on, and you can send for many hours very, very easily. Beautiful key. So the second key that I have been enjoying is this lovely little thing. This is the postal key from the Italian key maker Pietro Begali. So completely different style from the previous Marconi copy I just talked about. This short stubby key is meant to be a faithful replica of the Swiss postal key. So dating, I think, from around 1860, 1861. It's built on a cast iron base. So these are cast, so each base is very slightly different. You're going to get different patina, different finish, because they're all cast independently. It weighs a whopping 4 pounds, about 1.8 kilograms. It's a super heavy key, and the base is pretty much the size of a dollar bill. So if you want to know how big that is, it doesn't take up an awful lot of space in the shack, which is perfect for me. The short arm, all the hardware and the contacts are all gold-plated brass, and the key has very generously sized silver contacts, really nice big contacts in there. Because of it's got front contacts, so the contacts are here on the knob side of the bearing, and because of the materials used, this is quite a loud key to use, mechanically very clacky. So you know, people are going to hear you around the house when you're sending on it, but I quite like that that slightly changed compared to the Marconi. The other thing is the tension spring, which isn't in tension, it's in compression, is here again on the knob side of the bearing. and unusually is a kind of cylindrical spring. Later good designs like the Juncker key, which also uses a spring-in compression at the front, they used kind of conal shaped keys like that. So it gives you a little bit more of a linear, consistent result in terms of pressure. I actually have to run the tension of this, the pressure of this, a little bit higher than I would normally, just to be sure that I'm going to get the arm back up after each press. Like the other key, high knob, this actually stands a whopping 8.2 centimeters, 3 2/8 inch off the table. So this is a super high key. I have to put this on a little shelf underneath my table so that I can get at the right height for it. But again, a lovely feeling knob. It's just no flange on this. It's just a very high upright knob, beautifully finished, so it's smooth in the hand with a slight indent on the top. Feels really, really nice. Lots of different ways of holding this again, whether you like to hold it like a button or make use of the upright on the knob. So two very, very different keys, but both of them an absolute joy to send with. As I said, kind of modern reproductions. This one probably a little bit more faithful to the old GPO keys, but the Phil Boyle key, a beautiful reimagining of the Marconi and an absolute joy to use. Howard, any questions? Any other points I missed?
I tell you, this key, this postal key is just beautiful, Michael. I'm looking
Gorgeous,
at that.
isn't it?
I like the way you arranged this on some fabric, almost like you're an eBay seller.
It's
Michael,
like having a model here with me. It's a very utilitarian key, but an absolute joy to use. You wouldn't want to send for hours and hours on this, but it's really nice to switch between something like the Phil Boyle key and this. It's like using different pens. It's a very different tool for sending CW on. That's
great. Michael, quickly, how many keys do you have?
One never asks a gentleman how many telegraphy keys he has. That's like asking a lady her age.
Oh my God. Okay, thank you very much, Michael. That was very nice. Next up, we have Bob W06W from Northern California. Bob actually has created for us a re-engineering of a haptic vibrational device for people that have hearing problems and want to learn CW and use CW. And through his tremendous efforts, we now have that available. Thank you for that, Bob. So I hope you can get your camera on, Bob, and show us what you have. Did we lose him?
Yeah, oh, there we are. So Howard, I was able to get one camera on, and I got the money shot, as people sometimes refer to it. Thank you. So basically, I'm going to be looking at, you might guess, 3 different cooties. A little while back, I decided, gee, cooties, wonder what they're like to send with, and gave it a try. There are a tiny bit of history. Cooties came about roughly 1904, very early 1900s, at about the same time that the bug came out. And they were designed to address glass arm, what we now call repetitive stress. The up and down motion of keying was burning out telegraphers' arms. Cooties operate with a side to side. This first key is a Bonnell Model W. This is virtually identical to the key that was first produced in 1904. Significant differences, has a different style piece of plastic on the end of the circuit closure. Otherwise, this is identical, and it was produced up into the 70s. They're relatively scarce, and I'll mention a thread that runs through what I have to share. I really like adjustments on keys. My keying style evolves over time. What I like one day may be not what I like a month or 2 down the road. So having adjustments on keys is really important to me, and I'll be using that as a thread through these 3. So with the Model W, there are 2 adjustments. You've got contacts, which adjust the amount of travel side to side. And if you can see in here, getting my high-tech pointer out, there's this little piece of leaf spring or beam. There's a block that slides out of the back of the key, adjustable here. The amount of beam controls the amount of force needed to flex the key. The other thing on this key is that when it comes to the end of travel, there's what I'll call a hard stop. It hits the contacts, and if I don't move the key on the desk, nothing else travels. Not my favorite style of cootie for sending on, but this has wonderful historical significance, and it's just a cool key, but it's not my favorite sender. Then I decided, well, actually, when I first decided to try a cootie, this is where I went. The hacksaw blade was donated by the hacksaw in my garage. I did polish up a bit, a couple of shelf brackets, and some tire weights to give it some mass on the desk. This is that same key, re-envisioned just a bit. The amount of blade that's available between the front of this block and the contacts, that basically controls the flex much the same way as this guy. The total amount of blade, which I can slide forward, controls the amount of travel after the contacts close, and I'll call that a soft landing. So if the contacts close, there's some additional flex there. And that gives it a nice soft landing and a really fluid feel while sending. So with this hacksaw blade cootie, my total investment on the first one was probably under 3 hours and certainly under $10. So you can get going with a cootie, very inexpensive. And this is a beautiful sending key. It's one of my 2 favorite sending cooties. Just a really easy key to send with. And as Michael said, you can send on this one for a very long time, very comfortably. Neat key. It has historical DNA in it. There was a key called the Dyna, name of the company, Maniflex. And the sliding block arrangement is something that I first was aware of from Dyna. This is my other favorite cootie, which is the Bengali Sculpture Swing. It shares some design elements with their HST3, and it is the most adjustable cootie of any that I know of. Really a cool design. This is the engineer in me talking. There's a ball bearing and a cam down here. When I move the key to either side, this point moves closer to the front and there's an opposing magnet. So there's your main force. You got these 2 plunger mounted contacts on the side, so you can fine tune the force. And that's all before the contacts touch. After the contacts touch, the amount of this little wire beam here that's exposed controls how difficult it is to flex the key. So if you bring this sliding black tray and contact in close, tiny little bit of beam exposed, very, very stiff, hard landing. Take this block, shove it toward the rear, move the contact with it, and you have a lot more beam exposed. And I think you can see it flex just a little bit there as I key. With that longer piece of beam available, you get a much softer landing. And then finally, you've got the contact spacing, which adjusts how far you go side to side to make contact. And the end result is this super stable key with really, really sweet sending. So you've got hacksaw blade and swing. And in a significant amount of difference in price, they're 2 beautifully sending keys, and they're 2 very adjustable keys. And for the part of me that can never make up my mind what style I like, I have a lot of flexibility with these. Okay, I'm going to mention just 2 other things very quickly. There's one other adjustment on a cootie that people don't talk about very often. This is that adjustment. No Allen keys needed, but the separation of fingers and where you are centered on the key have a really big impact on the quality of the sending that you have. And people don't often mention this one, but it's really important. Okay. Then finally, I'd like to mention an organization that you might want to be aware of. There's if you go on the web, Sideswiper.net, all one word, sideswiper.net.org. Among other things, they've got a pile of keys, loads of commercial manufactured keys, loads of homemade keys, and there's some great ideas there if you choose to build. Okay, thank you very much, Howard. Back to you.
Well, thank you very much. And I think everybody can tell with Bob's knowledge and expertise that he's one of our lead instructors in our sending classes. So that was great. Thank you very much, Bob. Okay, next up, we have Jim, W6JIM, also in California, not too far from Bob. You know, Jim, I think you're member number 104, if I remember, and that's pretty low in the club considering there was over 4,000 member numbers issued. So thank you for that, and also always for helping me out with everything administratively and all the presentations we do. Jim is my partner in crime on that. So what do you got for us, Jim?
Oh, well, first of all, I'm number 107, not 104. So I'm a couple later than that, but thank you for remembering. I got my theme for today is made in the USA. I got 3 keys all made in the USA. You can get them today. I got a straight key, a paddle, and a bug. So can you guys see my picture okay?
Yes.
Okay, good. Well, here's the first one. This is a straight key, and I was excited to find this one. It's made by a guy called K7SU, and it's called the Titan Straight Key. The guy, his name is Kelly Class, and his website is k7su.com. That's Kilo 7 Sierra Uniform. I was excited to find this because it's I thought I had found all the keys that were made in the United States, so this one was a new one for me. But it's a joy to use. It's about almost 10 inches long, 2.5 inches high, and 3 inches wide. Underneath, there's you can see all the wiring. There's a clear acrylic plate, so you can see how it's all hooked up. It comes with a brass plate with your call sign on it and a serial number. And what neat thing about this key is that it uses magnetic force instead of a spring. So back here at the very back of the key, there's an attraction force, and at the front of the key is where the contact is. So when I use this key, it kind of reminds me of a Kent, the way that it feels, a Kent straight key. But it does have its own unique personality, and it weighs about 1 pound and 9 ounces. And Kelly Class also makes a camelback version and a junior version of this key. And just to show you underneath, you can see all the wiring, and it's even signed. So that's the Titan Straight Key. Next key I want to show you, I just love looking at this key. And this key is made, you probably recognize it. A lot of people know Steve Roberts, W1SFR. And this is called the Tango Bravo Kilo India Victor, or else it's the TBK4. I'm not sure what it means exactly, but TBK IV torsion bar key. And made by Steve Roberts, and his website is w1sfr.com. This one also has no springs or magnets because it uses a torsion bar instead. It's got a vertical 1/8 inch torsion bar that's locked in place at the top, but it's free at the base. So it allows it to bend just a little bit, just enough so that it puts about 25 grams of force at the fingerpiece. It can be used as a paddle, a cootie, or a straight key if you want to just use it on one side, right? And so kind of like a horizontal straight key. But I use it just as a paddle, and when I'm not using it, I just have it out because I like to look at it because it's so pretty. So that's the TBK IV. I just call it the torsion bar key by Steve Roberts. And then last but not least, and this is really backed by popular demand because I like looking at this key too. And I need to kind of pull my camera back a little bit here. Let's see. There we go. So this is the Viz Key Vertical Bug. And I think it's just a beautiful key to look at. And it's also a joy to use. This key was designed by Tony, K4 Victor India Zulu, K4VIZ, and it's manufactured now by Kurt, C-U-R-T, K8 Uniform Lima. And as you can see, it's just a beautiful key. It's vertical. I like this key. One of the reasons I got it is because you can slow it down all the way down to about 12 words a minute, just with how it comes. And you can go up to about 30 words a minute, which is faster than I can send. So it's within my range for sure. There's 9 points that can be adjusted. So Bob WO6W would love this because there's 9 different places, not including your finger spread. So I guess that's actually 10 different places that you can adjust it. It's brushed matte brass. This key is 2 pounds and 8 ounces. It's over 7 inches tall, 3 inches wide, and over 3 inches deep. And this is probably one of my favorite keys here. And that's all I have for you, Howard, unless you have any questions.
Well, that's spectacular, Jim. And I know you showed that last year, but I mean, this is such a crowd pleaser. Isn't that just unbelievable? But what's also cool, Jim, the way I've seen you over the years progress in your knowledge about video. And now you're presenting on a rotating, you know, turntable. This looks like the Home Shopping Network. You know, this is pretty cool. Thank you very much, Jim.
They teach us in the military, always try to improve on your processes. So that's what I've been doing.
Well, you know, our last presenter was supposed to be my friend Alan NY2G, but he can't get his microphone working, which is unfortunate. So I'm going to go this year. I didn't go last year, so I'll be the wingman here. It's too bad about Alan. He's such a generous person, and he's donated a lot of things to the club and giving me and also Rich K2UPS, the other co-founder, some radios and things like that. But let me show you what I have here today. I wanted to start off with this particular key. This is an Amico straight key. This was my first key from a novice back in 1965. I put this on this very piece of wood you see here, and I mounted it with nails. And of course, I missed the nail and broke the plastic, but it never came apart. Now, if you think about the way Michael was talking about all the adjustments that he has on his Bengali key, his postal key, there was one adjustment on this thing. It only was the gap. And the other adjustment is you either push it down or you pull it up. So we learned at a very early age, it didn't matter what type of key you use. It was all in the fist and your coordination. So I never really got into keys or knew people collected keys or wanted different keys until I started this club, really, because we could just use whatever we had. And we show this video of this guy in Finland. Too bad we couldn't show it here today. The guy takes a spoon and a couple of wires and connects it to a tin of chopped liver, and he taps on that and gets the conductivity through that, and he's got a perfect fist. So, you know, it's really very important to have good mind-to-hand skills. Now, this was given to me by Alan NY2G, who couldn't present. This key is made out of a micro switch. Absolutely cool. And it has a very good feel, and you can see the micro switch in there. Okay, next key, also given to me by Alan, who's very generous, as you can see. This is a World War II or Korean War J37 that is put on your knee. So if you were driving a Jeep or something like that, you just put this over your knee with these straps, and then you send on it. Very interesting piece. It always reminds me, I was thinking about it, you know that song, Oh Susanna with a banjo on my knee? Well, here you have a key on your knee. Okay, what else do I have for you here? I think I have room for one more. So what is this? Okay, well, you would think this is just any Vibroplex chrome-plated bug from, you know, back in the 50s. Well, this one is from 1953. I got this when I was 15 years old. And I was so tired of sending on this. This thing was killing my wrist as my speed approached 20 words a minute, that I got this in a surplus store in Freeport, Long Island for $10. And this was my main key for 15 years, because back in the 60s, there really weren't many keyers around, and who could afford something like that back then? I didn't get a keyer until I was way into my adult years, maybe 40 or 50 years old. So here it is, still in beautiful condition and was never repaired. This is the way I got it, and this is the way it is today. I never added a scratch to it. So I'm glad that by default, I got a chance to say a few things. I think that's all we have time for. We really don't have time for Q&A, but if anybody wants to contact the club and find out more information about keys, you're more than welcome. And I hope you enjoyed the show. Gary, I guess that's it for us.
Okay, very good, Howard. Thank you guys, and enjoy your day. Thank you for the presentation.
Thank you, Gary.